Lord said unto Abraham, this is chapter 13, verse 14. I'm going to read 3 or 4 verses. And the Lord said unto Abram, after Lot was separated from him. Now I'm going to stop right there. Here's the word of the Lord to many of you. God is getting ready to create some divine separations. And you won't like what I'm getting ready to say, but that's okay. God is getting ready to create some divine separations. There are people that God will have to put them at a distance in your life for God to do what he really desires to do in your life, because these people are a hindrance to faith and vision and the things that God is calling you to do and desiring to do for you. Nobody can figure this out for you. You're going to have to be discerning, and you're going to have to understand there will be distinct moments in time that the Lord will say a separation will need to come. Now, I'm not talking about you divorcing your spouse. I'm talking about different relationships and different influences. So it said here, after Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes and look from the place where thou art. And I think, and Abram after, I'm going to read it out of the New King James. And after Lot had separated from him, he said, lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land which you see I give to you and your descendants forever. And I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, so that if man could number the dust of the earth, then your descendants also could be numbered. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you. Now this is huge. This is huge. I think I read a statistic that the land that God was prophesying over Abram to possess was 300,000 square miles. 300,000 square miles. And when you start thinking about the magnitude of that, and the Lord's just telling him, more or less, look up. This is what I'm going to do. Look to the north, look to the south, look to the east, look to the west. And so many times we've gotten so boxed in, and we have considered that what is happening is all the more that can happen in our life. But there's something interesting about this. You're the seed of Abraham. Did you hear me? I know most of you are scared to death I'm going to take off and preach. You are the seed of Abraham. The DNA of the father of the righteous is in you. Now, when you turn over into the 14th chapter and the 18th verse, it says, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. How many understand the bread and the wine represented a covenant meal? Communion is a covenant meal. The Passover was a covenant meal. And this all started with Melchizedek, the priest of the Most High God, and he brought forth to Abram bread and wine. Everybody say covenant. And he blessed him, and he said, blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. Blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him, Abram gave him tithe of all. So now we see at the appearance of Melchizedek a meal, a covenant meal. Then we see a covenant response. And the covenant response was a tithe. You with me? I got one amen out of that. Then it goes on and it talks about the king of Sodom saying, okay, to the victor goes the spoils. And he said, just take all the spoils. He said, I'm not taking anything, because I am not going to be associated with you to the point that you could say, I made Abram rich. The only one that's going to make me rich is God. So Abram has experienced a covenant meal with the priest of the Most High God, and he had a covenant response, which was the instituting of tithing. Everybody say tithing. Now, let's go to the 15th chapter. Stay with me. Now, this is the whole segment. I'm not going to get into all of this, but he said, I'm your shield and your great reward. I've already preached about this. And he said, behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one is born in my house, mine heir. Behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but thou shalt come forth out of thine own bowels, or out of thine own body shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth, this is the 5th verse, and he brought him outside and said, look toward the heaven, count the stars if you are able to number them. And he said to him, so shall your descendants be. Now this thing is getting big, because when you go all the way back to the 12th chapter of Genesis, he said, I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make your name great, and you're going to be a blessing. Well, now he's reaffirming it. He's declaring it again. And it says here, now Abram believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give thee this land to inherit. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? Now, he just said he believed him. He just said he believed him. Are you following the script? He just said he believed him. But now he's saying, how am I going to know that you're going to do it? And the Lord said, well, how shall I know I inherit it? And he said unto him, take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years, and a ram of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, divided them in the midst, and he laid each piece one against the other. Now, I'm almost done. Covenant meal, covenant response. God had said, you're going to be the father of a great nation. I'm going to make your name great. You're going to be wealthy, and you're going to bless other people. It's a fourfold prophecy. Then he goes into a place, and it says this, now, I'm sitting down with you. I've sent my high priest, and I'm having a covenant meal with you. We are going into another level of relationship, the level of covenant. And then the response was the beginning of a covenant. He gave him tithe of all. Now, when you study it out, the Bible said Abraham was very wealthy in gold, silver, and in livestock, and he gave him a tithe of all. This was not a $150 seed. This would probably have amounted in our current time into tens of millions of dollars worth of equity that Abram had. Now, he goes on further. God said, I'm your shield and your great reward. Then the Lord makes the promise to him, the heir is not coming from your major domo. The heir will come out of your own body. He will be your own flesh and blood. And he believed him. But then he said, how am I going to know you're going to do this? He said, all right, we're going to cut covenant. So he takes a heifer and he divides it one side and one side. He takes a ram and he divides it half and half. He takes the turtle dove, he takes the pigeon, and he takes the goat. Thank you. One half and the other half. Blood was shed. How many understand God's commodity is shed blood? Okay, where are you going with this, Pastor? I'm just going to give you a taste of this. Because you're getting ready, you that are in this room and you that are watching need to understand something. The power of a blood-bought covenant is the most powerful thing in your life. Now, it talks about, in history, it talks about Dr. Stanley looking for Dr. Livingston. How many hear the old cliche, Dr. Livingston, I presume? Well, Dr. Stanley went on a mission in Africa to find another physician named Dr. Livingston. And when he was in the midst of searching for him, he confronted a tribe that would not let him go any further. And they told him the only way that you can move forward is to enter in and cut a covenant with this king or this chief. So they became, as we would say, blood brothers. Then it required the giving of a gift. And the chief said, I want your goat, your she-goat that gives milk. Now this was hard because Dr. Stanley had a medical condition that the goat milk helped alleviate pain and suffering in his body. But he gave the she-goat to the chief, and the chief gave him a copper-wrapped spear. And he's saying, I just gave up my she-goat for a stick. But then they permitted him to have passage. And he found out that from that gift, every time a tribe saw that spear, they did anything that Dr. Stanley wanted them to do. You got to understand something. There comes a moment in time when we get into a place and the Lord is saying, I want to take the blessing to another level. I want to take my relationship with you to another level. I want to take you into a position that no matter where you go, you are so empowered with my gift that it will open every door that needs to be opened. Now hang in here with me. When they cut covenant, something happened. When they cut covenant, there was an exchanging of gifts. So in the instance that I just brought to you, a she-goat was given to the chief, and the chief gave Dr. Stanley the copper spear. I don't know what the chief wanted the she-goat for, but we know that Dr. Stanley needed that spear to gain access to territories he needed. But there was also things. That chief was saying to him, every soldier I have, every warrior I have, every resource I have, every bit of gold, every bit of silver, every bit of livestock that I have, it stands behind you. And Dr. Stanley didn't have that much, but he was saying the same thing. So if you want the she-goat, you've got it. If you need some of my servants to help you with something, you've got them. It was like the covenant said, all that I have is yours, and all that you have is mine. You say, well, that's kind of scary. What do you mean scary? You're serving a God today that if you're in blood-bought covenant with him, he's saying all that I have is yours. He's got a whole lot more going for him than you've got going for yourself. You might say, well, I got 5,000 credit left on my Visa card, and I've got a couple dollars in the bank, and I've got a used car that's on bald tires and needs a little work done. And the Lord said, but I own the cattle on 1,000 hills and all the gold and the silver in the hills. And if you sit down and have a covenant meal with me, and I get a response of your tithe, we are in covenant. Then he took it on and he said, now let's strike the covenant. Take a heifer, take a ram, take a goat, take a turtle dove, take a pigeon, and lay it all out. And God said, now I will be there to ratify the covenant. I'm almost done. I'll be there to ratify the covenant. But before he got there to ratify the covenant, vultures and devouring fowls came trying to eat the sacrifice. Y'all giving me that wild-eyed look. And Abram had to fight off the devourers. And so he's standing over the heifer, the ram, the goat, the pigeon, the turtle dove, and the vultures are coming. The buzzards, as someone would say. The devourers. No, you need to wake up and have a cup of Starbucks. The devourers. And he's fighting off the devourers. You know where some of you are at right now? You are in a covenant with God, but the devourer is coming trying to eat your sacrifice. The devourer is coming trying to eat the blessing of what God is getting ready to loose in your life. But at some point you got to start fighting off those devourers and let God pass in the midst of the seed you've sown, the tithe you've given, the sacrifice sacrifices you've made. And when you look back and say, okay, God, I did this with the heifer. I did this with the she-goat. I did this with the ram. Are you following me? And the devourer tried to come, but I'm fighting the devourer off. Say, how do you fight him off? How do you fight him off? You just rise up and say, I rebuke the devourer in the name of Jesus. And every time I sow my tithe, every time I give a gift, I'm fighting off the vultures that are coming to rob me. And God passes through that sacrifice. And in essence, he's saying to him, all right, all I have is yours, and all you have is mine. But we're on the better side of this. And it went on in the 17th chapter, and then I'm done because I'm not going to get into that. How many know Abram's name was Abram and Sarai? But then they cut covenant again, and he changed his name to Abraham and Sarah, which was part of covenant. They exchanged parts of their name. Abram became Abraham, and Sarai became Sarah, because God breathed his name into their name. And I'm telling you, God's getting ready to breathe his name into your name. He's getting ready to take you, who you are today, and breathe his name into it. And when people deal with you, they're just not dealing with you, they're dealing with God himself. And all this has to do with the simplicity of blood-bought covenant. Started with a covenant meal. It moved into a covenant gift. And then it accelerated. And all Abram had was one son. But from that one son, the fourfold prophecy was completely filled. Now I want you to ask yourself a question. If tithing began with the father of the righteous and the priest of the Most High God, and tithing was instituted not under the Levitical law, it was put into the Levitical law because of the righteousness of it. What if we make up our mind that no devil in hell is going to stop us from sowing our covenant seed, which is the activator? It's the activator of opening the floodgates and the activator of fighting off the fowl that would devour your blessing. Oh, that's a good place to shout right now.
Thank you for joining our service today. In order to rewatch this service and not miss future services, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Are you looking for more information on Word of Life Christian Center? Visit us at wolcc.net, Facebook or Instagram. If your life was impacted by today's service and would like to support the work of the ministry here at Word of Life, you can give by simply going to wolcc.net and pressing the Give tab. You can also give on our Church Center app. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.